Guys, it's Shell, Sunbury Housewives. Welcome back to another video. Today I am showing you how I make my epoxy tumblers. I've had so many people asking me if I could do a video showing you how I make them. So that is exactly what I'm going to do today. So keep watching and let's go ahead and get into today's video. The first thing I'm doing is I'm starting out with this 20-ounce tapered tumbler. It is a stainless steel double wall, and the first thing I'm going to do to it is I am going to prep it. I'm sanding it down just using a Dollar Tree sanding block, and I'm going to sand the whole thing, and then I'm going to clean it with rubbing alcohol and then I'm going to spray paint it using white flat Rust-Oleum paint. And I just spray paint that in my spray tent that I have in my room. I wear a respirator, so don't worry. I'll show you the spray tent here in just a second. There it is. I just use a little kitchen Lazy Susan to spin it around. It's pretty convenient. And then I'm printing out a marble water slide on my printer. That's cheating. And I use the clear gloss sealer spray. I just give it 3 coats. And while that's drying, now that my tumbler is completely dry, I taped a couple lines on here in a diagonal lines. And I am going to mix up some epoxy to do the epoxy method for my glitter. That's the way I prefer to do it. I find that best, that works for me. So I have 2-part epoxy, A and B, and you do equal amounts. And I'm just doing 5 milliliters, and I'm not even going to use near 5 milliliters. I do a very, very, very thin coat on my tumbler, just in between the 2 blue tape lines. Again, wearing my respirator mask and a gloved hand. The thinnest coat possible on my tumbler to be able to add the epoxy and then sprinkle on my glitter. I am doing a mixture of fine glitter and some chunky glitter. I just wanted that contrast. The chunky glitter down the middle between the fine glitters. I just thought that looked very pretty. So that's what I did. And with a gloved hand, I just pushed in that glitter into the epoxy to make sure none of that chunky glitter, especially, is sticking up and that it's adhering well to the epoxy. And then that way that when I go to apply my epoxy on top, that it is not sticking up and I won't have to sand as much. Now, one of the things that I like to do with the extra epoxy that I have, instead of letting it go to waste, is pouring it into a mold that I have, whether it be doing a keychain or some sort of jewelry. That way, I'm actually getting something out of it instead of it just going to waste. I do want to mention that I'm going to let my tumbler spin for approximately 3 to 4 hours while that epoxy sets up before I go on to the next step. And the magic of editing, it has been about three and a half hours. And I'm working on the water slide. Now, when I usually soak my water slides, I'm not working on something so big usually. So I did not have something big enough to put this in. So I'm using a paper towel to soak the back of the water slide so that I'm able to take off the backing. So once I saturate the back of it and it soaks off, I'm able to take the water slide off the backing. Usually when I put a water slide in the water, it only takes about 15 seconds for it to remove. As you can see, this peeled right off, and I'm able to apply it to the tumbler. Because the water slide was so big, I did have a little bit of struggle, but it all works out in the end. But you need to be careful when working with water slide because it can rip. And remember that I did seal this with a high gloss about 3 times. And I don't know if that helped give it some better non-tearing I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But I was able to really manipulate this and it didn't rip at all. So I was really happy with that. I took my X-Acto knife with a brand new blade and just trimmed up where the glitter meets to completely be able to get all of the water underneath the water slide, because you want to make sure that you get all of the water out from underneath so that this adheres to the tumbler very well. I was not liking how the water slide was sitting at the bottom of this, so I just went ahead and where that seam is at the bottom, I took off the water slide, and I'm just going to add glitter to it and glitter to the bottom of the tumbler as well. So that's what that looks like. And here's a close-up of that chunky glitter. Look how pretty it is and the color shift in it. I am loving how this is turning out so far. And my little cheat of the water slide, the marble. Perfect. So I mixed up 20 milliliters of epoxy. So it's 10 part A and 10 part B. And I'm slowly mixing the epoxy together, kind of folding it into each other. It takes about 3 minutes to mix it fully. And by doing it slowly, it's eliminating a lot of of a lot of bubbles. You're still going to get some bubbles, but not as many. So once I get all of that mixed up, again, I'm wearing my respirator and I add my glove on. And then I will go ahead and add a coat to the tumbler. This is the first full coat on the entire tumbler. And then once that's on completely, I will let the tumbler turn for 8 hours to completely set up before the next step. And here is that extra epoxy that we poured earlier, and it's all set up, and I could put a keychain on it or a necklace chain. I think it looks amazing. So I didn't waste the extra epoxy. Okay, now the first coat is set up. I'm making sure everything looks good. There's a few spots that need sanded, so I'm going to take my sanding block and just go over those spots that do need sanded and just lightly sand it. Once that is done, then I will clean it with alcohol. Now it's time to add our vinyl. I cut out, using my Silhouette Cameo, some strips, and I'm going to add where the glitter in the marble meet. I'm just adding those strips there, and then at the bottom as well. And then I will trim those to make sense, so that they're not hanging off. And at the top, I trim it just below the lip of the cup so that it's not sticking up when I go to epoxy again. And then on the bottom, when I add the one at the bottom, it'll overlap just slightly. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing of the name, and I'm going to add it on the marble side. And then put that down. And then now I'm going to add another coat of epoxy. Here I'm mixing up the final coat of epoxy. I'm gonna apply it to my tumbler, but I'm gonna reserve just a little bit of epoxy left to add in some mica powders, to add just a little extra oomph to this tumbler. The first mica powder I'm going to add is a pearl white. And I'm going to mix that up and then add that to my tumbler in diagonal strokes. At first I added just into the white glitter along the chunky part. But then I do add it on to, no, I guess I added it to the marble first. Ignore me. this just adds some extra design elements to the tumbler. And then I add some pink to that white and add it to the marble side. And I just use my heat gun just to add a little bit of movement so that it'll spread out some, and then it ends up looking so pretty. So like before, I will let this spin for about 8 hours until the epoxy completely sets up. It is the following day. It is all set up, and this is what it looks like. I am so in love with this. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and go around the rim and cut off any excess epoxy that got onto the lip of this. And I just go around the entire lip and cut it off. And any epoxy that may have dripped into the inside as well, I get off. Just using my X-Acto knife, cut it out. It comes off super easy. And clean that up. And I also wipe the inside and the outside one more time with the alcohol, and add the lid on, and this is done. I'm in love with this cup, and I really hope that Michelle loves it as much that I do. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a great big thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.